Hello, everyone. I know I've been out for 2 weeks at least. I've been going through personal career change and personal issues during my break, but I'm back to now start streaming consistently, making videos, and engaging in future debates. Feel free to play the video at 2 times to get through if you're interested in listening to the whole conversation. Also, I want to mention in the description, I will list all the common anti-Bivalve sentience arguments and as well as the debunk, as well as what the evidence presented for the debunk. Thanks for all your patience and support. And without further ado, let's get straight to the video.
All right, we're live. How you doing?
Hello, I'm okay. How you doing?
Doing good, doing good. All right, so we are going to be talking about sentience and bivalves. I have not been convinced that we should worry about if we should eat bivalves or not. I've eaten them somewhat recently, and I know many self-proclaimed vegans that eat bivalves, and so you oppose that stance. So yeah, you go ahead and share your thoughts.
Yeah, so I find that to be a principle issue on principle that's absurd. Um, Not only because it's a form of speciesism, which veganism is supposed to be directly opposed to, but also it leads to increased rights violations towards humans in net negative health outcomes, such as zoonotic disease transmissions. Um, it contributes to the destruction of the environment, but also mainly for the animals themselves. They suffer, and I'm here to speak on their behalf to defend them because they are the victims that are being preyed upon.
All right. Okay, so my first question to you, before we get into the details of the science of understanding sentience of bivalves, my question to you is, what, like outside of the word sentience, what about animals makes you value them? Like, imagine we didn't have the word sentience, but we had ways to detect anything possible about any animals, humans, whatever, and plants. We could detect different levels of like suffering, of pleasure, different levels of sensing, like touch, or getting a feeling of something nearby. How would you describe, if you weren't going to use the word sentience, what elements, and it can be multiple elements, make you care about animals and not want to hurt them?
Just by having the ability to subjectively experience the world. Um, like look at it from a selfish point of view. Do I want to go through exactly how we treat the animals that we prey upon go through? Absolutely not. So I would not want to commit such an atrocity towards them out of mutual respect. Simple as that. Also, you can say there's also obviously environmental, there's a health outcome factor, but mainly it's that ethical principle that it's a non-aggression principle. Do unto others as you would want act done unto yourself. So I just leave all animals as I am also. I recognize I am also an animal. Um, Leave them with their own dignity to exist. Um,
Uh,
as
okay.
equal to equally treat them as I would want to be treated. So I do not want to be exploited. I do not want to be, uh, victimized. So I'm not going to victimize the other animals that exist in the world.
Gotcha. Yeah, I agree with a lot of that. Well, so a question I have. So you said a subjective experience. What if there was something that could have a subjective experience but could not feel anything whatsoever? Like they could not feel
Hmm.
pain, they could not have well-being, but they could recognize something, and they could be essentially something that could, let's take like a rock. Let's say a rock was able to see what's happening in the world and have a subjective experience in what they're witnessing, but they couldn't ever suffer, feel pain, feel pleasure. Do you value that?
If it was a case that the rock actually classified as an animal like we are, then I would care for the rock as an animal. So to be
Well,
logically consistent.
what if we don't have classifications? What if we're just looking at everything that exists and or better yet, I guess you'd have to explain to me what would make us classify it as an animal.
The fact that we, well, first have sentience, so I'll just go into a deep dive on how sentience is developed. So
Yeah, go for it.
basically, sentience is developed from functioning neurons, um, but particularly from the brain function neurons of an animal, and it don't matter where that placement of the brain function neuron or neurons is at within the animal body, but the fact that it's a control center to react in the world um, for the purpose of continuing its existence, basically, to validate its existence. Um,
Mm-hmm.
uh, but like, what was the following?
Well, I just you were talking about if we were to classify it as an animal,
Yeah,
and I don't know if we need to worry about if we classify something as an animal or not.
yeah.
If a flower could suffer, but even though it could suffer, we didn't classify it as an animal, I would still care about that flower, and I'd say we shouldn't harm that flower. So I
Yeah,
guess I don't feel the same about the animal classification. Do you need that to exist to care about it?
well, no, so yes, because we have similarities that are important to care about, because again, like the similarity is the sentience, the ability to experience the world. If it was the case that, and as far as I know, 99% of all animals have that ability. Thus have uh, a brain functioning neuron or neurons, and that's where that sentience stems from. It's the ability to be able to make decisions and experience the world around them to preserve its existence. And these behavioral, and this is behaviorally proven by actions of fighting, eating, sleeping, running,
That's
etc.
the bivalves you're talking about. Do those things?
Just animals in general. So we know
Okay.
that, well, most animals, I'd say 99%. I know there's some animals that lack um, those abilities, but the point is that if we were to become those, if we were in their position, and from an empathetic point of view, if we were in their position, would we want to be exploited, um, knowing that we ourselves have the ability to experience and a will to live, basically a will to exist. Yeah, I wouldn't, as since I don't want to be treated that way, I would give the animals the benefit of the doubt to um, allow them to continue to live their lives um, respectfully, like in mutual respect and in mutual understanding.
Yeah, no, I mean, I agree with you in cases of areas where I think there is sentience, especially a certain type of sentience, and that's why I'm vegan.
Hmm.
So I agree with the bulk of what you're saying. I guess I just like this is something it's not really where I'm trying to do a gotcha or anything. I actually don't know exactly where I stand. Like if the word sentience didn't exist, and if I was the scientist that was discovering how each animal felt how they felt, Like what actions would make me care about something versus not care about something. I can look, even without being able to scientifically break it down, I can look at most mammals and see that they have an experience that is something like mine. They
Hmm.
have, they have nose, eyes, ears. They have blood that comes out.
Hmm.
They react negatively if they're hurt. So that's very easy to do. Where it becomes tough is things that don't make sound. So like figuring out which insects are sentient or not sentient, if there are any that are not, and then various different things animals that are in the ocean and whatnot. So I like to break down these ideas and figure out what matters to me. Like, why do I value something? And so there are things that are obvious, and then there's things where I don't even know if I'll be able to give you an exact answer. If you were asking me the question that I'm asking you, I don't even know if I could answer it.
Oh,
But
okay.
let's imagine there was like some kind of a blob type thing, something that just looked kind of you know how like a lot of things in the ocean look just kind of crazy, like a sea sponge or something.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah.
Let's imagine something that's not real. This is not a real thing, but let's imagine it was, and it looks kind of like a sea sponge. It's just a blob of something.
Hmm.
And let's say, unlike a rock or a plant that can't feel anything, let's imagine that this thing, it can't suffer. It can never feel what we view as suffering or pain or pleasure. But if something bumps up against it, it can like feel that it's being bumped up against, but it
Right.
can never care how it's treated because it's
Because
not
yeah, it
suffering.
can't like it can't actually like react in a way to like run away or anything like that.
Yeah, or even if it could run away, it I can't imagine how it would want to because it's not feeling anything. It doesn't have any emotions to feel like there'd be no way to describe giving it a better life any different than if you ripped a leaf off of a tree and somebody could say in a sense it's a better life to have its leaf, but there's no suffering. So I guess my question is how much being able to perceive something or being able to have a subjective experience makes it become valuable. So would you say it would be wrong to eat this hypothetical thing I'm describing that cannot suffer or feel pain at all?
So like in the case of sea sponges, I know that they don't have neurons, so they
Oh,
can't
okay.
nearly experience. They basically, as far as we know, neurologically they cannot experience the world. They just literally exist to feed off of bacteria and viruses and other things that we absolutely would not want to, you know,
Okay, so it's just like a
experience.
helpful plant.
Yeah, it's basically, yeah, it works like a plant, but it's for the ocean. But it's an animal in that it consumes basically. And that's the only behavioral action that it does. But it consumes the things that we do not want to have ingested into the world because it will end up with negative health outcomes to us. Um,
Okay.
so
So
uh,
what if it had something within it that can detect that it's being touched and
mhm.
it can react to it, like it can move when it's touched, but that we can know it doesn't feel any pain or suffering. Would that sea sponge, that hypothetical sea sponge, would that become something you value because it has nerves to react to it being touched, but it doesn't have nerves that can suffer or feel pain?
Yeah, so regarding the if it only had the sensory nerves, no, I do not have an ethical issue with the bothering it. But since on the principle, since it is an animal in of itself, I would have an ethical issue because the line of reasoning, the idea of, let's say if we were to create animals that lacked the neurology to be able to experience, but only act as a sea sponge to basically only consume or do whatever one single behavioral animal action that they can do. um, well, in of itself, that wouldn't be like if we actively took um to create that those animals in existence, that would still result in creating negative overall health outcomes towards human beings. The fact that we will want to consume things that consume bacteria, viruses, things that are obviously going to end up, causing needless suffering to us.
What
Yeah,
if it didn't though? So what if it was a hypothetical thing that was like a sea sponge? It could react to touch. It
hmm
wouldn't suffer. And let's say whatever, no matter what it consumed, like viruses or whatever, if humans consumed it, it would, let's say, it would be healthy for us.
it would be healthy. In that
Yeah.
case, I would not have no argument to be against that, but hypothetically, but in real world, that case doesn't exist.
Okay. No, yeah, and you might be right. I think it's best to look at hypotheticals to see how and why we feel, and then we connect it to the real world.
Yeah.
Okay. And gotcha. Okay. So I'm just trying to break down nerves. Okay. So would you say so there needs to be pain and suffering for it to be a moral issue or not, and then we wouldn't want to consume something unhealthy for us, but that wouldn't affect a moral issue. Okay, so really, what it comes down to is if we were able to prove that bivalves, or even just one bivalve, was like this thing we're describing, then at that point you would feel like that thing should be consumed, correct?
If it was a case that it had no negative health outcome risk, and that it lacks the ability to experience, thus not have a cerebral ganglia slash a brain for the bivalve itself. Um,
Just the ability to have pain and suffering.
yeah, so yeah, basically
Okay.
to experience basically.
Okay, really quick to get one element out of the way. You keep talking about the negative health effect to humans. Do
Uh huh.
you think there's something morally wrong with somebody being unhealthy themselves, like somebody eating like vegan donuts or something and being unhealthy?
No, I don't. I don't. That's a personal choice. But
Oh,
like
okay.
when we're talking about animals, that's technically not a personal choice. That involves somebody else.
Oh, I just mean if you're eating an animal that, because you made a couple comments on if it's unhealthy for us, and then
hmm
you said, and also if it can have pain and suffering. So I would say whether it's a bivalve or this hypothetical sponge-like thing or anything we could imagine, it shouldn't matter if it's unhealthy for us. What the part that matters is, can it suffer and feel pain, right?
Right. So like I'm just giving the multiple traits of why it would be wrong to consume that hypothetical scenario. If it was a
Yeah.
case that it did not cause, it had zero risk of zoonotic disease transmissions, which would result in an increase of overall rights violations to what we already know as sentient beings. So let's say, for example, let me just give you a quick example.
Okay.
Consuming that consuming we know that animal protein in of itself it causes inflammation, and it could cause cancer. So
Yeah.
that personal choice of eating the lab made cancer causing animal protein, that would not be an ethical issue. That'd be only a personal issue. But the in the case of the animal, that in the hypothetical that you propose, if that animal did not have sentience, or if it did not have the ability to have subjective experience, so like the sea sponge, and that what was the other trait,
I think we were just talking about pain and suffering was the main thing I value that I can think of right now.
right, so as in the case that if the animal lacked the ability to experience, as well as did not pose zoonotic disease transmission risk, so it actually was promoting health towards humans, then that would be a case of where I would not have a technical, ethical, or nor a yeah, I would not have an ethical issue towards that the consumption or the exploitation of such animal.
Yeah, I just don't think that the effect it has on humans should matter whatsoever, unless we're talking about feeding a child or someone that
Oh,
you are the
yeah, yeah,
guardian
yeah.
of.
So
Um,
yeah, so the reason why that would be a problem, so like look at what we have like we farm pigs and we've gotten we developed disease like the flu. Clearly the flu has killed people, multiple people. So again, this was not a necess and
oh, okay. You're saying if there's a harmful reaction to other people besides the willing adults that are making their own unhealthy choices.
yeah, yeah. If it actually impacts the if it actually has a risk to the existence of the species,
Okay,
of our species, then yeah, that would be that'd be
okay,
another factor to determine whether or not it's an ethical decision to consume the hypothetical animal that you propose.
gotcha. Yeah, no, I understand what you're saying. Okay, so yeah, I would say with something like a bivalve, if we let's just say let's pick a random one like mussels.
Hmm.
If we found out that mussels could not feel any pain or suffering, but that let's say maybe some mussels might have some mercury or something in it. Therefore, it might be unhealthy for the person consuming it, but it wouldn't be immoral to consume it because you're only hurting yourself, which is fine, like
Hmm.
eating cakes or donuts, and then it doesn't suffer. So now the question just becomes, does it suffer, right?
Right. Yes.
Okay. And so you feel convinced from the evidence you've looked at that every bivalve um, can suffer or feel pain?
Yes.
Okay. So go ahead and fill me in on what has led you to feel this way.
So just um in addition to the behavior, to avoid, in their perspective, their negative, or noxious stimuli reactions, slash their pain perception. Um, they have a brain. Their brain is called a cerebral ganglion. Their cerebral ganglion is cerebral means brain. It functions as a brain. It's a cluster of neurons, um, but it's possessed within the body of any bivalve that we're talking about. So it could be a clam, mussel. Some bivalves actually have eyes. That's a trait of having sentience. But some, I'll say most of them. Most bivalves have eyes, but some don't. But for the some, they still have the ability to feel, and determine whether they need to relocate to a different location. So let's say like there's an earthquake, they have the ability to, if they feel vibrations, they would directly try to swim till they don't feel vibrations. That's a form of sentience, of the ability to have a feel, to the ability to feel, um, to um, to preserve their will to exist, basically. Um, that's basically the general argument. And we can, like, this is logically consistent and valid from how we understand how we have sentience. The only difference is that the bivalves, they have a different shape and their body is conformed differently, as well as they have a significant lack of intelligence. They only act on basic primitive instincts, but also they exist. We have primitive instincts as well, but in we also have the decision to we have the intelligence to be able to decide, um to have multiple different types of preferences, obviously. But that's not that has nothing to do with sentience or the ability to feel. That just only has to do with it's basically just an intelligence um, different trait basically. So
Mm-hmm.
so if to be clear, basically, neurons that function as a brain is the reason why they have a form of sentience. Um, Even if it's a form that you wouldn't care about, it's a form to care about because the principle of it is that okay, well, that's a completely subjective take to have. Look at how psychopaths can look at people throughout society and decide to look at you like the bivalve that you look at the bivalve to be, and prey upon your vulnerabilities, your lack of, and use you to their full extent of exploitation, unwillingly,
Mm-hmm.
basically.
For
It could
sure.
be,
No,
yeah, yeah.
I,
Go ahead.
I, well, I agree with you in any sense that I would feel that it's something I value. I agree with all the detailed thoughts about like why I wouldn't want it to happen to me. Therefore, I'd care about it. It just has to be something I care about first. But so
Hmm.
really quick, let's what I would say. So Lewis here in the comments is asking about the precautionary principle.
Hmm.
Um, and my response to that is, I mean, there are various different things where I might not have an answer to something, and I have to decide how cautious do I want to be about it. In this case, I haven't heard enough to decide that I'm ready to be cautious about it. Whereas something I was discussing with somebody earlier, the difference between organic produce versus not organic, even with not enough information on pesticides, I do take the precautionary principle with that, where I do not want to consume the pesticides. So just so Lewis can know, and so you can know, I have not been convinced to take the precautionary principle with bivalves. So I want to point that out. And then you mentioned a handful of things like behavior, like I believe scallops will like almost do backflip looking things. And then you mentioned eyes and
Hmm.
well, let's just go with behavior and eyes. What I would say is, to me, those two things are reasonable. It makes it reasonable to take the precautionary principle. So the fact that a lot of vegans do take the precautionary principle, I wouldn't want to talk them out of it. I would say these things happening, seeing eyes. If I saw a flower with eyes, it might make sense to be like, I don't know, let's hold off in case that's sentient. But mostly, I'm going to defer to the science on anything that I'm not familiar enough with,
Right.
and that would include just about anything that can't make audible noises. I would rely on
Yeah.
science.
The neurology, basically.
Yeah, and so which I rely on for most things. For example, I've never done anything to be able to personally prove that the Earth is round. But if somebody were to ask me, I would say the Earth is round, and I'm only going off of the fact that it seems like that's the general consensus, and there's no
Hmm.
downside to going with that. Now, with the bivalves, there is a potential downside, and that would be if if they are sentient. And so maybe I'll be convinced of that. And if I'm convinced of it soon, I'm going to change my actions right away. Now, with the brain thing, I want to bring up this idea that I heard Vegan Gains and the Nutrivore talking about, which
Hmm.
would be if you severed a human finger and then you used whatever you needed to use to keep it alive. To in a scientific lab, you have that finger, the right things attached to it to where the blood will keep pumping from like a machine and the finger, keeping that finger alive. And if you, let's say you had the nerve endings on the finger to where when you poke that finger, it'll like move as if it's reacting to the poke.
Hmm.
Um, that this would be something with nerve endings. I believe he said that this would essentially have the ganglia, but I'm not 100% sure. I don't really know how these terms work exactly. But that since the finger wouldn't be able, it would move as if it's flinching, like it's being hurt.
Hmm.
But the finger, if it's not feeling any pain or suffering, there's no moral value to it. And from my understanding, that is,
Hmm.
as far as any facts we know about bivalves, we do not know that they do feel pain and suffering. So I guess that's I. If you want, we could open up some of the studies that you're referring to. But if you don't feel like you would be like great at presenting them, I could take the studies you're referring to and on a future talk I have, bring somebody on that's like sort of like a study expert that would be able to break it down. And I know a handful of people that want to be doing the best thing possible. Therefore, if they were convinced bivalves were sentient, they would change their ways. And this is something I want to break down further. I
Hmm.
just don't feel convinced yet.
Okay, so I could just explain without the research in the end of itself. So
Okay.
regarding sentience, all it requires is the a brain, or central a central processing unit, um, and that's the all that's required, and it has to be functioning, obviously. That's all that's
Mm-hmm.
required to be able to have a subjective experience. Regarding the severed finger, it lacks a control unit. It also lacks blood flow. So if the animal has blood flow as well as the control central control unit, uh, s- such as the brain, so in the bivalve case, it would be the cerebral ganglion. Um, that would classify as being sentient in of itself. The neurology is consistent with how we have sentience as humans. Anything else is like you said regarding the severed finger. All that is regarding the poking and it reacting like that. All that is just literally.
Like just reacting to stimuli.
But besides that, what was the other thing you brought up? That I Because I'll mention that right after. If you keep
Yeah,
talking.
I can't remember which thing was
Uh,
said that was missed.
yeah, my mind went blank on
No,
that
you're fine.
specific term.
I'll just bring up the next thing I was going to bring up. Well, I got so
Okay.
two things. How do you feel about the fact that there isn't a general consensus in the favor of them being sentient? Like it
Mhm.
seems like at least more than 50% of scientists that understand this category of
Mhm.
understanding believe that they are not sentient, or it hasn't been shown that they're sentient yet. Why do you think this is?
Yeah, I think it's simply because they have no reason to grant these animals sentience. Their profession is to dissect and to exploit them. Like the entire community is non-vegan in of itself. Um, the
Yeah, but
re-
the only they happen to only refer to bivalves as not sentient. These same scientists that would call every single other animal
yeah.
that they're willing to dissect and eat, they're calling. So I don't think they have any
So
benefit to gain from this.
So the benefit is that well they used to have the opinion that fish were not sentient, but they discovered
Hmm?
or they acknowledged that the neurology is consistent with how we know that we humans are sentient. So that's why I'm
Yeah.
applying that same logical extension all the way to bivalves. We know that bivalves
Well,
we
well, hold on real quick.
this
The I can't remember the part of the brain, but the part of the brain that tells the human and other mammals that there is suffering or pain, that part of the brain fish do not have. It took other findings and studies to figure out that fish feel pain. There's a handful of studies where if you make a fish feel pain, and there's also in the water, there's something that would numb the pain. The fish will go to the numbing area, and these studies have shown us a good likelihood that fish feel pain, but it's not because they have the same connections as humans. They do have
hmm
nerves and ganglia, but their brains don't have all the same parts that ours do.
yeah, I agree, and that's their perception of pain I think still exists. It's just they don't have our
Hmm.
type of pain. It's just like
Yeah, definitely.
there's certain humans who lack the full their entire ability to feel pain. They lack the exact same functions within that part of the brain that we have to feel pain. But I would say that they still have a form of sentience to care about. Like they still have, they still have a will to live. That's basically all that's needed to care. Um, well, to acknowledge that you shouldn't be harming those humans, basically. So to be consistent with the animals, you know, bivalves, etc., fish.
Well, but well, one thing is, so we're talking about how it was thought that fish didn't feel pain, and now we know they do.
Yeah,
I guess that's kind of
in
my
respect to the
point. Is
fish.
that if we were worried that scientists were just wanting to get away with harming animals, not only would they not have found that fish feel pain, but they would probably make claims that cows don't feel pain or something silly. So
Well, they have
do
in
you think
history.
it's
They have. It's just not, it's just not recognized. There's always been different disagreements within the community because of their own specific biases. They have moral inconsistencies, just like everybody else who's not vegan. Um, like this, literally, just um, their perspective is to not acknowledge that animals can suffer, so they can continue to get away with exploiting animals.
okay? Okay, I'll step away from that just because I don't know enough to talk about that too much. Let me ask a question. Sort of to answer Lewis over here, but this was something I was going to bring up anyways. But I'm curious. Do you drive?
I do.
Okay. Well, what are your thoughts on, well, I guess insect sentience in general, but the fact that when we drive, we're hitting a bunch of insects. There's usually dead, squished insects in the front of the car. What are your thoughts on this?
Yeah, that's ideally in a ideal vegan world that would be needed to be resolved and you know, but for now, what's necessary is for us to need to drive to be able to get to work, to be able to make a living. Um, Obviously, that's not an excuse to continue driving, but currently, like there's no other way to survive.
For sure. Does the assumption and the likelihood that the insects that are sentient are likely way lower on the sentient scale, does that
Compared to
affect it
humans, sure.
compared to other animals even like if you were in a burning building and there was a dog and then also there was a fly, well, fly is a bad example, it would just fly out, but if there was a dog and an ant, would you save the dog because it has more ability to suffer?
Um, so I have from our perspective, what we know, since dogs are closer to humans, we would assume that dogs have the ability to suffer more. Ants are obviously they're just a different shape, but they still have the ability to suffer. Um, that alone would say that uh, obviously there would be a preference to care more about the
Mm-hmm.
dog. Personally, I don't. I wouldn't. I would care more about the fly personally because the fly is not carnivorous. The dog has more. Is more likely to
Okay, let's
cause
say it's
it
a guinea pig
cause.
and an ant.
Okay, if it was a guinea pig versus an ant, the guinea pig is a herbivore. I would protect. I would.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would. Save the guinea pig over the ant.
Okay. So I guess my thought would be like, so let's say when you drive, you hit like 2 dozen insects every day that you drive. What would you say that if it were deer, you would stop driving and figure out a way to bike to work or take the subway or something?
So if there was deers all over the road, assuming they're
If you hit
alive,
this, if you hit the same amount, and let's say the cars that in this hypothetical, your car is so strong that it's just gonna kill the deer, maybe make it suffer a little bit and kill it, but it's not going to like damage your car. You can still get to work on time, but you hit 24 deer every day that you drive.
So let's assume that the deer are the size of the ant.
Nope, deer's normal size. You hit it, it goes off to the side of the road. It's not illegal or anything. It's just that your car happens to kill 24 deer every day that you drive. Would
Um,
you figure out a way to not drive?
I'll figure out a way to drive past the deer, like not run
But
into the
let's say you
deer
couldn't. Let's say your options were you any day that you drive, you 25
I have
deer
to
are going
drive
to
it to
die.
25 deer
And
versus
if it's 24 insects, I'm going to assume we're okay with it. Like I am. I don't want to kill insects, but I drive almost every day,
right.
and so I'm okay with killing 24 insects. Um, I probably would not be okay. I'm pretty darn sure I wouldn't be okay with killing 24 deer. I'd figure something out. But what about you? Would you say that the driving is that important that you'd be okay with the deer dying to be able to drive?
Yeah, I wouldn't be okay with driving.
Okay. And is that
The
because the 24 deer are higher on the value scale than 24 flies?
uh that would be in my, from personally, I would find that the deer killing the deer would be too much of a increase of rights violations um than to outcome for me to accept, knowing that the deer are herbivorous and that they would not contribute to any further animal rights violations to be consistent.
Yeah, and we'll say that the insects you're hitting, let's say that they happen to also be not carnivore. So let's just say it's 24 flies, and so the reason that you would be okay with hitting the flies to get to work, but not hitting the 24 deer to get to work, is work is important. You have to get there. You can't reasonably not drive, but because it's so important, the value is higher than the devaluing of killing 24 flies. But killing 24 deer each time you drive is so much worse than your need to drive that
Hmm.
you would
Yeah,
sacrifice your driving.
I would refrain from driving. Yeah, if the
Okay.
flies were herbivorous, I would also refrain from driving.
Uh, th- oh, but they are
No,
flies.
flies are omnivorous. They eat stuff that are dying. They eat stuff that are already dead, and they'll eat stuff that are they'll eat also plant rotten plant stuff matter as well. But they eat
Yeah, but
live
they don't eat
animals.
anything sentient.
Oh, they'll eat a live animal if the animal is bleeding out or something like that. Can't reach the wound. Flies will eat you alive. So that'll be a direct increase of rights violations.
I don't think they can eat you. I mean, maybe they would land on like your like a open wound and drink some of your blood. They wouldn't. They an ant. I don't think
So,
a fly has ever killed a living sentient
but
being.
they spread a zoonotic disease, so they can contribute to passing of
Okay.
passing of
Do you
viruses and stuff to spread
how
to your species.
do you think cars kill any insects that are not omnivores?
Yeah, I'm sure a car can't kill like what do they call, like grasshoppers and stuff like that. I'm sure grasshoppers have ran in the road accidentally or whatever. Um,
Okay.
but that'll be an accidental death. That wouldn't be like, obviously. So knowing that I'm driving, the intent to drive is just to to drive. It's not to run over animals.
Yeah.
That also matters. Like
Does
the
how
intent to
much does it
eat,
matter though?
it matters to the extent of to if we knew that let's say we knew a specific amount of herbivorous animals were gonna die, or just even one. Let's just say one, and
Hmm.
we knew that the herbivorous animal was a necessity to the environment. So like every time we drove and we ran into that one herbivorous animal that did directly contributes to a increase of rights violations, thus not be consistent with animal rights protections. I think that would justify to not allow driving anymore.
Yeah, but if we knew we were going to hit a deer every single day, if it was very well known that your odds are likely, it's going to be like 80-90% chance that every day you're going to hit a deer. Would you say that it's worth the precautionary principle in that case
Yeah,
to
I
not
was.
drive?
Yeah, I would say yeah, you should be cautionary to not drive and find a different means to transport.
Okay, and so I would say that if you're saying that as long as it's an herbivorous insect, I would say it's fair to say that there's an 80% chance that you will kill at least one herbivorous insect
Yeah,
while driving.
yeah. If
So are you
that's
saying that we should stop
if I
driving now?
no, I'm saying if I knew that I was gonna hit, uh, like it's absolute certain I was gonna run into I don't know grasshoppers, um,
Hmm.
every time I drove, then yeah, I would refrain from driving, and find a different means to transport to
Okay.
work.
Well, I do just want to let you know that I think it is almost certain, not necessarily grasshopper, but I would say out of all the insects we hit daily, you there's a good chance. I don't even think most insects are are omnivores. I'll look into it. I'll look into it. But here, real quick, just to figure this out, are you also in favor of killing predator animals, or you just don't care if they die accidentally?
I am in favor only in the case where it would of increasing rights violations to herbivorous animals. So obviously, like in an ecological point of view, it should be allowed that the uh, because that will preserve our existence. It should be allowed that predation exists to kill the sick, to strengthen the gene pool of the animals, to preserve the environmental, inhabitants of the environment, so we can all continue to exist. So the ecology doesn't fall apart. In the case of individual situations where rights violation happens, and it's not necessary. So like we have the power to, capture and force feed animals whatever we want to feed them. I think we have the obligation to take take all these carnivorous animals, assuming that it's not an ecological necessity, and force them to be vegan. That feed
Okay.
them a adequate vegan, a nutritionally adequate vegan diet. But yeah, it should require that to be logically consistent to not allow them to mass murder herbivorous animals.
Gotcha. Okay. Well, how about this then? If it, I don't think you're right that many insects are carnivores or omnivores, but let's say they are, and that's why you're accepting of the driving. So let's say that I think it's fair to say that about 24 insects probably get hit in a 2 hour driving span.
Hmm.
Would you say since that's acceptable to do if kill 24 insects a day because maybe they're omnivorous or anyways, would you say that if somebody didn't work that day and didn't need to drive, that it would be acceptable to turn on like a bug zapping machine that insects would come and zap and die, and they just did that until 24 died and then turned the machine off? Does that become okay,
If it
especially if it's all non-herbivore insects?
Yeah, if it's a non-herbivore insect, its intent is the insect will intentionally attempt to harm you. So violate your bodily autonomy, attempt to bite, feed off of you, whatever. If it's
Okay.
omnivorous, so yeah, I would say that's justifiable to kill that animal to to protect your bodily autonomy. You're right.
Interesting. Okay. And that's only within the hypothetical that it's not herbivorous insects. If you
Right.
can't know which insects are going to arrive and every other one um, might be
Right.
herbivorous,
If
then
the insect is completely herbivorous and you know that turn on that zapping machine is gonna kill those herbivorous animals who are not gonna pose any threat to you, that'll be unethical.
okay, I see. I see. Interesting. Okay. Um, Gotcha. Well, I like that you're consistent. I would say the majority of vegans would say, and I've seen a good amount say in a survey I did, that driving a car is fine because insects are, some of them are not sentient at all, and all of them are very low on the sentient like ranking. I
Right.
think most people would view most insects to be the lowest of the low of sentience. And I think it's obvious that even if bivalves are sentient, which supposedly they likely aren't, they have got to be less sentient than insects. And so I just thought it was interesting because um, the anybody that's willing to drive a car and kill those insects, and I think most vegans do not agree with you. Not that this part matters, but I think most do not agree with you that it matters if they're herbivores or not, because I think most vegans are not in favor of any harm coming to animals in nature. It's kind of step back and let
Well,
them take
I
their
gave the
course.
hypothetical where if there was a problem regarding the ecology, then yeah, I would not want to kill off the carnivores, or
Yeah, but if it doesn't affect the ecosystem whatsoever,
yeah, if it doesn't,
then
then
protecting
to be logically
protecting
consistent, you
innocent
should,
animals.
yeah,
Yeah,
you should control that carnivore's life and not allow it to predate on those herbivorous animals. You should feed it
gotcha.
a
And
nutritionally adequate vegan formulated diet.
okay, yeah, yeah. And I'm kind of torn on that topic. I don't know exactly where I stand, but I'm glad you're consistent. I thought it would be a very easy trap to walk you in because most vegans I don't think agree with that stance. But that's the cool thing about what I like to do with this channel is talk to people with wildly different ideas. AJ, if you're still in the chat, I do want to hear your thoughts on this because I know you and I'm Demon Wolf agree on a lot of things. I'm pretty
There
sure
was
AJ.
there was something else you brought up that I didn't get a chance
Mm-hmm.
to respond to. Can
Yeah.
you recap what you said? I just can't remember, but it was something I wanted to respond to, but you
Ooh.
jumped a little bit. Um,
Yeah. Sorry about that. I can't remember which topic was it. Like, was it
it
about?
was coming from between you discussing bivalves and giving the hypothetical scenarios of the car trap regarding the deer, stuff like that. It was something you
Okay.
said in between there. If somebody in the chat can maybe you know
Yeah. Yeah. No, I can't. I can't remember what it
there
would
was
have
something I
been
was not able
because
to respond to because I had to respond to the
yeah.
hypotheticals.
Right. I probably asked too many questions at once. But yeah, I was mostly trying to point out that like if a fly is sentient, which I think a fly is sentient, it's so low on the list. Like I'm guessing that most vegans wouldn't even care if a person just like was irritated by a fly and killed that
Hmm.
fly. Part of it comes to the fact that flies live like 2 days.
Oh, I know what I
Part of
wanted to say.
yeah. Oh, go ahead.
Um, yeah. So in the case of so like uh, yeah, flies feed on rotten and the animal that it can feed on can be living in the moment. It could be dying,
Mhm.
laying um suffering from being brutally not even dismembered, being incapacitated, so it can't move, paralyzed, something like that. And flies can directly feed off, i- including other parasites, but flies are a very common spreader of many diseases, which I don't need a name, but um, Bivalves. The difference between that and bivalves is that bivalves they actually don't pose any rights violations towards humans or any animals. They literally just feed off of what animals produce. Literally, feces, the rotting of plant matter, the basically detritus. I'm not even sure if I pronounced that right, but their food sources are composed of what animals produce. So consuming these animals, if you look at it from an outcome point of view, can lead to negative uh, health outcomes overall. Obviously through the genetic disease transmission, but we be continually spreading uh, these preventable diseases by if we continue to allow the exploitation of these animals through consumption. Um, there's also I can just talk about the exploitation non-consumption part of it that I also find that's hypocritical to do. But if you want to respond to that, and I can maybe clarify. I'm not sure if you want.
Go ahead and continue, and I'm going to keep thinking it through.
Okay. Um, Regarding the principle of veganism, and we can talk about the definition of veganism from your perspective, and I
Yeah.
can I can attempt to break it down to the best of my ability. Um, the point of being vegan is to acknowledge that animals, from their perspective, is they have their own perspective, their own percep- perception to exist for their own well-being, and
Mm-hmm.
that we uh, we want to return the favor of if we were in their situation, not want to be exploited or harmed or eaten, um, uh, you know, given mutual understanding between each other. It's basically just a non-aggression principle. If you do unto others that you want to do that you want done unto yourself. So with that in mind, the fact that we are discussing uh, uh, base a preference of who to care about and who not to care about, well, that clearly is not proactive because that perspective can be used against each other. Different racism. We have different types of uh, um, rights violation excuses that we've used all throughout history, and it basically stems from speciesism. Our belief to think that we're superior to, we're so much superior that we have a right to abuse and harm other animals that have existed throughout history. Um, and this perspective is being used among each other currently within society and throughout history in society. And in order to tackle that, we got to tackle how we treat animals who are the least fortunate or have the most primitive forms of each other. Because if that's not addressed and resolved, we can't even learn to respect and care, or not even care, to show compassion, to absolve from exploiting these animals, such as bivalves or whatever, these very primitive animals. Well, we will not be able to to resolve our own human issues, to be able to show compassion to each other. Basically, is
Yeah.
also what I want to mention.
No, I agree
It's
with
a
a lot of
pattern.
that. I think it comes down to intention, though. If somebody, I mean, obviously, anybody like myself that is vegan, that goes out of their way to intentionally not purchase products, to consume animal products, to wear animal products,
Hmm.
to have anything that's tested on animals, if we're eating bivalves, it's because we are under the impression, at very least, that we are not harming anything. So I think
Yeah.
intent is a big thing. It's kind of like a child that doesn't even know what they're consuming, and they're eating a burger, and they don't know that that's that like a cow had to be killed to get that burger.
Right. Can I respond
So
to that real quick?
yeah, go for it.
So my response to that would be, yeah, like we can't read each other's minds, right? But we understand that as animals, like we, from our own perspectives, like we all have the ability to move, to to eat, to we have the desire to have our own privacy, stuff like that. Was look at it from the animals, the victim's point of view. So obviously, you will want those rights, to be respected. From from these primitive animals, they will also want the same. Like they don't do anything to us. Um, Obviously, thinking that you're not doing anything wrong is, you know, completely subjective. I mean, these carnivorous animals that can be, harming us. Well, the difference between them and us is that they would actually probably have to in order to survive. But in our case, we don't need to be doing any of this to any animals. We literally don't need animals for anything that we currently do, and we need to create a society in which we don't exploit animals. Thus, resolve all these different um, forms of treatment that we have onto each other, that we've learned, onto each other. So that respect needs to start from um, us recognizing that, well, since we share this similar neurology, or I guess you can say it's identical, because the way that we could say bivalves in particular, they have a control center, and that control center, um, um, in respect to the bivalve itself, has a will to live its own perceptions, which we are not able to understand because we are not bivalves. But we know
Gotcha.
that since they have these similar traits in function, we should uh, grant them, apply the precautionary principle to allow them to exist free from exploitation and any potential harm. This
Gotcha.
Yeah, go ahead. You go ahead.
Just okay. Just a quick question. So there's a couple routes we can go. So for one, my friend Jeremy is in the chat here, and I
Mm-hmm.
was thinking it could be interesting if you were up for it to bring him in, because
Yeah, that's
the
fine.
part that I can't the part that I can't challenge you on is the details of why they have sentience or not. So
Yeah,
he might
yeah,
have
that's
a
fine.
better understanding of the science,
Yeah, that's fine.
and then after you guys talk about that. I if there's time, maybe me and you can go over the definition of veganism.
Yeah, yeah,
But
yeah,
real
that's
quick, I want
fine.
to have him hop in here. Um,
Yeah.
those are here with us. Yeah, he's gonna be here in one sec. There he is. Okay. All right. So really quick, if I'm Demon Wolf, if you want to do like a 30-second, 45-second stance on why you think the scientific literature says that they're sentient, because Jeremy was not here for that part
Yeah.
early on,
Yeah, I don't
like the control center
yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
ganglia business.
Yeah, so sentience is simply about feeling, the ability to experience. Bivalves, like humans, they have a control center. The control center is within their body. Unlike humans have a control center in their head, surrounded by a skull. Bivalves just have the control center within their body. It's called the cerebral ganglion, and that cerebral ganglia, it does all the necessary functions for any animal to make decisions and basically preserve its will to exist from its perspective, respectfully. So that's basically it.
Okay, so I think maybe I'm gonna surprise you guys a little bit. I'm not a biologist or neurologist or anything like that, and I'm not gonna I'm not gonna try to get into the science behind whether bivalves have zero sentience or some low level of sentience. I think what I know about is ethical philosophy,
Sounds
and
good.
so I'm gonna bring some other stuff up.
That's fine.
I should say first off, a lot of times we get the accusation that those of us that think that it's generally morally acceptable to eat bivalves, and that it might be even better than eating different plant products that cause crop deaths and pesticide rodenticide deaths. A lot of times we get the accusation thrown back at us that we're just doing it in a self-serving way. We're just doing it because we secretly want to eat, bivalves or something like that. And so I want to say that since I went vegan, I've never eaten bivalves, and even before I was vegan, I didn't eat them a lot. I didn't have a lot of interest in eating clams. So I'm not. Whatever ethical position I take is 100% not because I secretly want to eat something that I know is wrong and I'm making an excuse for it, because I don't.
I acknowledge.
I don't eat them myself. Okay. Um, but so what I want to say in terms of ethical philosophy is
Hmm.
first that clearly sentience is on a continuum. Like it's not just either 100% things are just as sentient as we are or not at all. It's not all like human level or rock level. Like there's a degree of sentience that things have. Um, and that animal species like very obviously differ from one another.
Hmm.
So I wonder, if you agree with that first off the bat, like like a chicken has a much higher degree of sentience than an earthworm or an ant.
I can acknowledge that from our perspective, yeah, I can acknowledge that uh, it's has it's closer to our level of sentience. Basically, I can acknowledge that, but
Okay.
I can't say that the earthworm's sentience is uh basically not worth caring about. Basically,
Okay, it might be worth caring about. I think it probably is, but I mean, it seems pretty clear to me that our kind of intuitions, our moral intuitions, and our behavior as vegans, overwhelmingly, like vegans in the world, um, treats different species differently
hmm
because of this kind of understanding that they have very different degrees of sentience. So, for example, you got people running, rescue sanctuaries for factory farmed animals,
yeah,
and they've got chickens on those sanctuaries and
right,
turkeys and ducks and whatever. And these birds are like out in the field, like the sanctuaries try to give them really like happy, safe, healthy lives, right?
yeah, they're very close to
And
us. Yeah,
and we think that's a great thing. I think it's a great thing. Um, but because these birds are rescued from lives of horrible torture
yeah,
and allowed to live out their lives right the way they should. Uh, but the thing is that like these chickens that are out in the field are going to be like eating ants and grasshoppers and worms and stuff, right?
hmm
And the sanctuary people, as far as I know, don't try to stop them. Like they don't think that this is like a holocaust that these rescue chickens are inflicting against the ants.
hmm
And they definitely don't say like well, this chicken's life is only one life and the ants' lives are lots of lives that the chicken's killing. So you know if we can't stop the chicken like holocausting the ants, then we should just get rid of the chicken. And I think the reason that it seems like logical and intuitive for them to have that attitude is that I think we all kind of know that the capacity of the chicken for having like high levels of suffering and happiness and well-being is just far greater than the ants. And so the vegans who run these rescue sanctuaries, and we who like donate to the rescue sanctuaries or visit them or post their videos, it just doesn't even cross our mind that there's something wrong with the ants that these rescue chickens are eating, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
Go ahead.
I just kind of want to start with that. Like we know that different kind of animals have very different levels of sentience, or at least like all of our moral behavior as vegans is like heavily based upon that.
Yeah,
You know, we
it's
don't.
based on us valuing the animals that are closest to our to us basically. Like yeah.
Well, I don't think it's just being closest to us. Like it depends what you mean. If you mean like similar to the level of thoughts and feelings that we can have, then maybe that's right. But if you mean like just close to us, like in evolution, like how distant of cousins we are, then I don't necessarily think that's true, because I think we can look at an octopus that's a very like distant cousin from us, and we can look at their behavior and we can still like figure out that octopus are very intelligent, right?
Yeah.
And they must like have very complex experiences even though they're far away from us. So I don't necessarily think it means like how close of cousins they are to us. But if it means like how close it is to like seeming like it can do the things and think the things and feel the things that we do, then I think that might make sense. But also, like if we found aliens, right, and like they didn't even evolve the same way as us at all, like they're made out of some different material or whatever, they came about like completely separate. But if we can look at them and see their behavior and see that they clearly think and feel a lot of things, a lot of complex things, then we should care about those aliens a lot. We should value them, and we should not like torture them or exploit them or kill them for no reason, right? So it's not really like just how close it is to us, but it's like how complex we think their experiences are that makes us care about the pigs and the dogs and the chickens a lot more than the ants and the worms.
All right, I understand what you're saying. Yeah.
So when we're talking about bivalves and eating them, not going into like their physiology, like their like neurology entirely. I just want to say ethically, like almost all vegans, as far as I'm aware, are like very okay with like behaviors that kill a lot of insects. And some of that is in terms of like the when we save animals that we think we have a reason to care about, like chickens or ducks, those animals go out in the sanctuary or whatever and they eat a lot of insects. But also like in terms of like pesticides, and just in terms of like how vegans usually feel about like swatting a mosquito or putting up like a mosquito zapper. They almost never like care about it, right?
Right.
And and it seems to be because we have reason to believe that insects have a very low level of sentience. And so then maybe I don't eat honey, and so we go to the point where we say like we're not gonna consume honey because part of the reason is that honey isn't very like useful or important at all, right? We can get like sugars from a lot of different other places, so we don't need to raise bees and do this kind of thing to bees. But but when the insect is something that like it's much more important to us, like killing mosquitoes in order to save humans from malaria. Uh, I don't know any vegans who think about that the same way as like if in order to cure malaria we had to kill like 1 billion dogs, then it would be like really shocking. We'd say like that solution is really horrible. We got to kill 1 billion dogs to cure malaria. Maybe there's another way, and we try to find some other like
Hmm.
genetic engineering way to stop malaria because we wouldn't want to kill 1 billion dogs, right?
Yeah,
But since
assuming. Hmm.
since it's mosquitoes, we just we just don't care about it, right? Because we
Yeah,
say
yeah,
like,
yeah.
oh, what we're basically doing is saying like whatever sentience the mosquito has is so small that it's like an easy choice to kill a whole bunch of them in order to save the humans and other animals that are dying from malaria.
Hmm.
Um, so that's just what I want to say. Like not going into the biology, just the ethical behavior of vegans, myself and almost all the vegans I know, it just it suggests that animal sentience is is
This
like a
is
continuum from like yeah, it varies from very small to a lot, and that we treat different animals differently based upon that.
yeah, and
So I
from
wonder, yeah, I'll let you
so,
talk
yeah,
now. Sorry.
what I would say is what vegans should prioritize are protecting herbivorous animals' rights over carnivorous animals' rights, because in the scenario where there are humans who are the victims of, let's say, like an alien species, well, would you care more about like let's say there's xenomorphs? Would you care more about the xenomorphs, even though the xenomorphs are more sentient? They have a more
Hmm.
ability, a larger ability to experience than we do. um, would you say
I
that
mean, I would say okay. I'm sorry. I
you're
didn't let
fine?
you talk so much, but I think I understand your
Yeah.
question. What I would personally say as a an ethical consequentialist, which is something like a utilitarian, um, I would say that a lot of it depends upon how many predators are fed by one prey. So usually when we look at the predators and prey, when we look at lions and zebras, like in order for one lion to live out its life, it has to eat several zebras, right?
Hmm.
So like the number of the prey animals that are going to suffer and die to support one predator is like many or at least several prey animals for one predator. But so in the xenomorph case, it's like okay, there's this highly intelligent alien. Does it have to um, hunt like thousands of humans over its lifetime, or are there like thousands of xenomorphs that can feed their entire lifetime on just one human? That kind of question makes a big difference to me.
Okay, so uh, yeah, my response to that would be, um, well, we so hypothetically, the xenomorphs are environmentally destructive or ecologically
Mhm.
destructive, which means if we allow them to continue to exist, um, that they would end up let's say humans were a ecological necessity to the environment, and that wiping us out would destroy, would basically holocaust all animals in existence, because the environment, the structures of the environment is
Yeah,
completely wiped out. Like
yeah,
it's
that sounds pretty bad. We should eliminate a predator like that for sure.
right. So I agree with that, and obviously in the case where if hypothetically the xenomorph was not ecologically destructive, um, and did not would not lead to an ecological destruction, but instead they were to increase the gene pool, not even increase, to benefit the gene pool of its prey species. um uh that
Oh.
in that scenario, even if it had to holocaust, let's say, millions of those preys, would you say that that's justifiable to allow those millions of victims for that predator
Mhm.
species to, in order to save all animals on the planet, that be justified, basically?
When you say benefit the prey species, so that's humans, right? In this scenario,
Yeah, yeah. So
do you
assuming
mean
humans
you
are,
mean
go ahead.
you mean benefit us in a way that makes us much happier and takes away a lot of our suffering?
Benefit us in that we continue to exist, like the species continues to exist.
Like if there was a like when I think about human suffering today, like if there was an alien species that was gonna farm humans because that's what it would eat,
Hmm.
and in the process of farming humans, like um, it cured all cancer and all like dementia and all the things that happen when we age, and you
Hmm.
know all the like horrific suffering that humans experience right now,
Hmm.
and then like as and we live to be like 300 years old
Hmm.
with like healthy young bodies, and then as part of that process, out of the like right now there's like 8 billion humans, so out of the 8 billion humans, this like predator species would eat like 1 million humans every
Hmm.
year, but it cured all of our like painful diseases, and we were like living really healthy lives in young bodies until we were really old, except for like those million people that the predator ate.
Hmm.
Then I would say that that sounds like a much better world than what we have today.
Right. Yeah, because we will continue to exist, our species, right?
Well, we would continue to exist, and like what you're suggesting is that
Yeah.
all the different ways that we suffer horribly would be taken away,
Hmm.
and then I wouldn't want to say no to that
Right.
just because like there's a predator that's killing a million humans a year. I mean, much more than 1 million humans a year already die,
Hmm.
and they already die. Like a lot of them already die in ways like starvation and
Yeah.
painful cancer and dementia and things that seem much worse than just getting like suddenly killed by an alien predator.
Yeah.
So that kind of situation where there's the highly advanced alien predator that's gonna greatly increase our
Yeah.
happiness, take away our suffering, and and then eat some of us. That sounds way better than the real world today.
Yeah. Yeah. So I agree. So
Is that what you're asking me?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah. So I'm just saying,
Hey,
like,
I'm gonna pause you real quick. Hey, are you guys up for talking till like 8 o'clock or something? Or sorry, for another like 45 minutes?
yeah, I'm up for it.
Jeremy, you good for 45? You want to do 30?
Yeah, yeah.
I gotta hop out
Sure.
here.
Yeah.
I gotta hop out of here. But I just wanted to let you guys keep talking, and then in about 30, 45 minutes, I'll probably come shut it off.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay.
All right, it was good talking, and as always, I'll see you again, Jeremy. All right, take care, guys. Keep talking.
All right.
Hey, I'm
So
Demon Wolf. Do you use your real name or do you just use a
yeah, I just use my
pseudonym all the
channel
time?
name. Yeah, I just use my channel name.
Okay. Where are
Um,
you at?
East Coast, United States.
Okay. I'm
Um,
in California, so yeah, it's not as late for me.
okay. Yeah, I'm a night person, so I don't care about the yeah. Um,
Cool.
so yeah, I agree. The scenario which we allow the carnivorous animals to prey on the prey species for the benefit of us continuing to exist, basically not collapsing the entire system, the natural order of for us all to exist, basically, right? That would be more
Hmm.
ethical than wiping out all the carnivorous animals, regardless, and thus destroying the ecological natural order, thus causing more extinction to us, right? So like Right? You acknowledge that that's more ethical, right?
Uh,
In that case,
I think that's. I don't think that's really an easy question,
so would it be better
because
for
it
us
depends.
all to be wiped out to eliminate all the suffering in the
Well,
world, or
no, the reason I don't think that's an easy question is because that I don't think it's easy to be sure whether the average life has a greater amount of happiness or a greater amount of suffering.
well,
You know, there
so
are these people, the antinatalists, the antinatalists, like they think it's easy because they think like just suffering just matters more than happiness, and they think, well, since any life of any sentient being is going to have suffering in it, and suffering just matters so much more than happiness, then they think it would be better if there was no life at all.
yeah, and then I can
But
acknowledge,
I don't think that.
yeah,
But I don't know whether with all the animals that are in nature, I don't know whether the total of happiness and like positive well-being is bigger than the amount of suffering, or the amount of suffering is bigger. I
right,
think that's a tricky question. So
yeah. I'm just asking, what's your
my main
preference?
feeling about I mean, the reason why I my feeling generally says that we should try to keep life around, and especially human life, and we should try to improve our ethics and our technology,
Hmm.
um, is that I have a kind of maybe faith is what you want to call it, or kind of confidence in a future that gets beyond our limitations right now,
Hmm.
and a future that takes seriously, you know, reducing suffering and
Right.
allowing all the creatures to flourish. But you know, I can see it going both ways. So if humans colonize space and we're all like vegan and beyond vegan to whatever the thing is that goes even beyond vegan, that is like caring about all the well-being of everything that's around, to have thoughts and feelings. Um, if that happens, then the future, like a few hundred years from now, could be so much better, like colonizing space, other planets, and having like, you know, quintillions of beings having like happy lives and not torturing each other. And it could be so much better. But on the other hand, if like we colonize space and still have the kind of attitude that we have right now towards factory farm animals, and if instead of like right now 8 billion humans torturing 2 trillion non-humans to death every year, if it was like quadrillions of humans torturing like 100 quintillion creatures to death every year in space, then that would be you know,
Hmm.
far worse. That would be hell compared to what exists right now. And so my attitude, like, it depends so much upon what the future is going to be like, what future
Okay,
technology and what future society is going to be like.
that's
Are we
fine.
gonna, it depends upon like, am I going to agree with like Steven Pinker, who says like, you know, his argument, he wrote a book, The Better Angels of Our Nature, that's arguing like civilization basically just has this trend to keep improving, you know,
Yeah,
like it's mostly going, there's some like slight movements where we go backward, but mostly it's moving forward.
yeah,
Attitudes towards like like just a few hundred years ago, slavery was legal in everywhere in the world, and there were only a few like extreme, like crazy sounding people who opposed all slavery.
right.
And then today, like slavery still exists, but even the people who are doing it like don't admit it. Like it's kept secret, and it's not
Yeah.
legal in any country on earth. It's not like officially legal. So something like that improved, and like attitudes toward like how we treat children improved, and even attitudes toward how we treat animals, non-human animals improved, right?
Right.
Like we still live in a horrible world in terms of the factory farm animals, but like a very short time ago, people would have thought it was crazy to say like you should put a human in jail because they beat their dog. They would have said, "What are you talking about? It's just a dog. A dog is like that guy's property. Like he can do whatever he wants to it.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah. This is like
you're gonna punish a guy just because he hit his dog with a stick. Like even like probably 50 years ago, but definitely 100 years ago, people would have thought you were crazy if you said that.
Yeah.
And today, like most people in our country, like they understand why like Michael Vick went to prison for running like a dogfighting ring, right?
Yeah.
They understand that. So even like attitudes, the attitudes toward animals have improved. So if it keeps improving, then I want us to, definitely want humans to stay alive and expand, and I want like the more moral humans of the future to like expand into space. But if they're gonna keep doing what we do now, if somebody told me like if somebody could like God could assure me that there was no way that humans were ever going to change their attitudes toward like factory farming, and they were always going to keep doing what we're doing today, then the antinatalists would be right, and then it would be better if we were all suddenly killed, because what we're doing right now is hell on earth, and if it's not going to stop, if humans are not going to stop doing this, then it would be better if there were no more humans. Right. Yeah, for sure.
Okay. Do you self proclaim yourself to be a utilitarian or a deontologist?
I'm a consequentialist, so it's close to utilitarian.
Okay.
I don't have any respect for deontology at all.
Oh, okay.
I'm an anti-deontologist.
Okay, so you don't believe in rights.
The reason I think that rights are there's probably some talks I could point you to that I had on the Reasonable Vegan channel and other channels where I talk about it. But like most consequentialists, I think that rights are very useful concepts, but they rights are like they're kind of like a summary of things that bring about the best well-being for people, for whoever it affects. And like rights break down and they don't make sense, and they don't work anymore when they don't improve the well-being of the people involved. So here's some examples I'll give you. Okay. Consent is a kind of like rights-based concept.
Yeah.
Like you should have consent for sex and things like that, right?
Yeah.
But then you should have consent to touch somebody or whatever. But then I got examples like, let's say you're at a party and you're in like a committed relationship with somebody, and you see them from behind, and you go up and you like hug them around the waist from behind. Right? What do you think about that? Does that sound like okay, good, or does it sound like really wrong?
Yeah, that sounds wrong. It sounds like the person did not consent.
This is like your girlfriend you're in a relationship with, and you just see her talking to somebody, and you're just like, "Hey, baby," and you like hug her from around the waist from behind. Does that sound wrong to you?
If it's a girlfriend,
because that sounds like yeah. You're in a committed relationship.
Okay, yeah. If
that sounds totally like a normal thing that people do. That's good, right?
Yeah. If the girlfriend has experience and has giving you the notion that that's okay in the past, and I think that's fine. Because
I mean, we're like assuming that she doesn't have PTSD or something like that. She's just like a normal person. Like normally people think like that's going to be okay.
So So for your girlfriend, if she acknowledges in the past that that's okay for you to do that to her, Yeah, and then
Well, she hasn't told you explicitly, like you haven't sat down and have a conversation.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
if we're ever at a party and you see me, you can hug me. She never like told you explicitly, but it's just like you get the feeling that she'd be happy if you do that.
right, yeah, exactly, yeah. So yeah,
Yeah,
I
okay.
wouldn't
So
consider that a
that's
rights
what I'm saying.
violation. Yeah,
That's what I'm saying. So I would say that that still can't be consensual because she doesn't even know you're going to do it in that moment. So it's not consensual. But the reason that it's still okay is that you're doing it like to make her happy. You're
hmm,
not like you're not going to cause harm to somebody. You're going to like increase the happiness.
yeah.
You're going to
So
increase the well-being.
that would be a rights
And
violation when
so
she says to stop, right? So that's
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, because when somebody's telling you to stop, they're telling you that you're
yeah,
causing them harm.
yeah.
They're
That
telling
you're
you that it's like hurting them in some way.
yeah, you're violating their bodily autonomy. You know,
Right. But you can do things all the time that somebody doesn't know is going to happen, or like the other example is like, so like you're married or you're in a relationship, then you sleep in the same bed and your partner is sleeping, and then you like kiss her on the forehead. Like it's an unconscious person, so they can't be consenting because they're unconscious. But almost everybody thinks like that's perfectly morally acceptable to do, just like kiss your partner on the forehead because it's not hurting anything. It's not
yeah.
going to hurt them.
So yeah,
And
the only time that would be a rights violation would be you were not given permission, or that they said no before to let you
right,
know in the
yeah,
future
yeah,
that they
yeah,
don't want that done to them. That would be the only time
yeah.
that
That's
becomes a
right.
rights
That's right.
violation. Yeah,
But they don't need to tell you that it's okay ahead of time. They just need to like not tell you that it's not okay. Right,
right. Like
because it's a normal thing that for normal people is going to be like a positive. It's going to have positive effects. It's not going to for people who don't have like PTSD, or they don't like have some opinion against it, like it's going to increase happiness, is going to increase well-being, and like it's a good thing that people do within relationships like normally.
yeah,
So that's just talking about consent, but I could talk about other things. I could talk about freedom, right? Freedom is like a rights-based concept. Like people should have freedom because usually that increases their happiness, to like let them do what they want and not have
hmm,
somebody else like force them to do things they don't want, right?
yeah,
But then you think about the cases like a little like 4-year-old child, we take away a lot of their freedom.
yeah,
And why do we take away a lot of their freedom? I think that utilitarianism or consequentialism explains why. Because if you give a 4-year-old all their freedom, they're probably going to hurt themselves.
yeah, yeah,
So the reason we take away their like rights-based freedom is because we want to we care about their well-being, and a 4-year-old's well-being is not going to be maximized by letting them have maximum freedom.
right,
A
yeah,
4-year-old's well-being, like to be maximized, requires like taking away most of their freedom.
right,
And then as they get older, like their older children, their well-being is um more like promoted by giving them more freedom.
yeah. So
And if you think about other examples, like not only small children, but let's say like your buddy was like really drunk. Okay, you're out with like your friend, and he's really drunk. He can barely stand up, and he's like, "I'm gonna go walk home on the sidewalk along this busy street." And then you're like, "You shouldn't do that." And then he keeps insisting, like, "No, I want to. That's what I want to do." I think the good thing to do is to take away his freedom.
yeah,
Just like
yeah.
not let him do that.
Yeah, the right has to be for the benefit of all society. So in the case of children, to give them equal right to the same rights as adults would be not for the benefit of society. That would literally result in chaos. Basically, that would literally cause more.
Hmm.
That would cause more rights violations within society. The the point of having rights is to preserve and to prevent an increase of the violations happening within society, among society. If that makes
Yeah,
sense. Yeah.
that's basically what I think is all of these concepts, all these like deontological concepts of like rights and consent and freedom and stuff. Like I think the reason they exist and are good concepts, I don't think we should never use those concepts. I just think like the good use of those concepts is about like improving the consequences, improving like the
Yeah.
well-being and
Yeah.
the
Right.
happy like flourishing lives of the people. You know, the critics of utilitarianism, like they use utilitarian consequence based kind of like arguments and examples like all the time, and that feels like they're like, you know, they're saying that consequentialism is wrong, but then they're just always appealing to consequences. You
Hmm.
know, I was thinking about like so somebody talking about like slavery in the US, right? They might say, if they're like a deontologist, they might say, um you know what, how dare you utilitarians say that what was wrong about it was the suffering, you know? It was
Hmm.
just it was the lack of freedom that was wrong. It was like it was the it was like the oppression of the people that was
Yeah.
wrong, not like the fact that they suffered, right? So you can
Right. Yeah.
you hear deontology saying that like it's not just about this, it's not about the suffering, it's not about like their well-being, it's about the fact that just the fact that they were enslaved, period, right?
Yeah.
So that's what a deontologist will say, um but then what kind of images would they show, like when they're giving their argument? The deontologist talking about why slavery was so bad, what kind of images do they show? You, because I'm sure you've seen this, I've seen this a bunch of times, we all seen this, we all seen the presentations about the evil of slavery, and what they're always showing is the the guy with all the whip marks on his back,
Hmm.
and the people who are tired and hot and clearly suffering in the fields, right?
Hmm.
And they're not just showing some random guy, some random like slave like sitting on a chair on the porch, and you don't see anything wrong with them, and then they just say like, see, suffering doesn't matter, just like, you know,
Hmm.
it's about like his lack of freedom. They show the suffering. Why do they show the suffering? Because the suffering is the real issue. the
Yeah. Like that's
it
the.
ultimately comes down, yeah, it comes down to like when you enslave people and you like use them as property, you cause like huge amounts of suffering to them every day, and you take away their happiness. And it's all the things that the utilitarian will point to, that like that's what the evil is about, it is all the suffering,
Hmm.
and keep the focus on the suffering. um and I think that probably applies to all the other things that deontologists would say there's something wrong with, is like either what's wrong with it is about suffering, or it's not that wrong. So why is it wrong to have adults as slaves when you tell them what to do all the time, because it it takes away their happiness and it causes them a shitload of suffering? Why is it not wrong to take away the freedom of a 4-year-old? Because you're not causing suffering to the 4-year-old,
Right.
you're
You're protecting this.
preventing
Yeah.
suffering of the
Yeah.
four
You're
year old. That's the
preventing. Yeah.
that is the difference right there.
Yeah.
And that's the same difference as why is it wrong to have pigs in a factory farm to get slaughtered for meat, And why is it okay to have pet dogs that you love and you take care of? Because with the pigs, you're like imposing suffering on them, and with the dogs, you're taking away the dog's freedom too, right?
Yeah,
You're
yeah.
taking away their freedom, but you're
'Cause
giving them
yeah, you're preventing them
happy
from
lives.
yeah, you're preventing them from increasing their amount of suffering potentially if you were not to take care of them, by abandoning them or whatever. Um, but at the same time, you also prevent them from potentially killing other animals. If you were not there
Yeah,
to,
right.
yeah, if you're not
And
there
the
to,
other thing we do,
yeah,
a big way that we take away the freedoms of our pets is we spay and neuter them, right?
yeah, yeah. So they're not
So
able
like,
to, yeah,
yeah,
uncontrollably
yeah,
breed
the
and,
dog,
yeah,
yeah, the dog can't consent to have its uterus cut out,
hmm,
right?
yeah,
It's not That's not consent. That's a non-consensual thing.
hmm,
But like, it's done in order to think about the well-being of like that dog, and then like you don't want it to have puppies that will be abandoned
hmm,
and like suffer and die, have to get killed in shelters, or just like die on the street, or just go out and kill other animals.
hmm,
So we take away the consent with the well-being of the dogs in mind,
yeah.
and that's why spaying and neutering is a good thing to do, right?
I would say that neutering is not good. I would say giving dogs vasectomies instead of neutering is a better option
Yeah,
because the neutering can lead
yeah.
to actual more suffering than not neutering of the dog itself. Because the hormones
Yeah.
that if it's a male, assuming the dog is male, the dog is has testicles, and those testicles are responsible for producing healthy hormones for the male to be able to live happy.
That's a really good point. Yeah, I'm glad that you brought that up. I think if we're going to be good pet owners, uh, we really should pay a lot of attention to procedures that are um, that take the animal's well-being much more into account, even if they're more expensive.
Yeah,
And if you're going to have a pet, you should do the thing that's a bit more expensive instead, right?
yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, it's like some people have some people have rescue chickens, pet chickens, and they go, these are these chickens that are like genetically engineered to lay way too many eggs,
Hmm.
and then people think that's an excuse to like eat the eggs or sell them or whatever.
Yeah,
And
that's
some vegans like feed them back to the chickens, but
yeah, that's what I would
what they
do.
should do, like if you're going to do that, if you're going to have a chicken as a pet, like, and I think there's procedures, like there's hormonal
Yeah.
um, injections that will stop the chicken from laying all those eggs,
Hmm.
and it will be much much healthier for it because it won't be like losing all of its calcium and shit
Yeah,
like that,
exactly.
right?
You could do that or just feed
Then
back
then you
the
should do
eggs.
that,
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Even if it costs like $1,000, if you have like a pet chicken that you've taken on, then you should try to find a way to do that, right?
Yeah. And just to be clear, all this needs to be only for the benefit of the animal. Not there should not be no.
Right.
Yeah. There should not
Yeah.
be. Yeah. Yeah. You understand what I'm saying? Right. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And utilitarians, consequentialists, they get this all the time. Like, uh, oh, you don't believe 100% in consent? Yeah. It's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
or you don't think that in every situation taking away a person's freedom is wrong?
Yeah. That's
You know,
insane.
no,
Should
I
not have the
don't. I mean,
freedom to murder. None of that. Yeah.
you know, consequentialists, utilitarians are not. They're not like people who have a weaker moral system.
Hmm.
They're not like they're not just people like always saying like, oh, we can make excuses for everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's people who focus on the consequences and say, like, the evils of history, you know, the evil of slavery was fundamentally that the people who supported it only cared about their own consequences, their own well-being, and they didn't care about these other people's well-being. Like that's what, like, the fundamental evil is not caring about the consequences to these other people. The evil of like having women be subservient to men, the fundamental evil is that they suffered a lot,
Mm-hmm.
and that people didn't care about their suffering enough.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't care. They didn't care. Not only they didn't care about their suffering, but they didn't care about their potential for happiness. If you let them, like, have their pursuit of happiness, the happiness they would have, like, is both of those. You don't care about how much suffering you're inflicting, and you don't care about how much happiness you're preventing. That's what the utilitarian consequentialist says about
Mm-hmm.
like historical evils and evils today.
Mm-hmm.
And I just want to say again, historically, you can look this up. The utilitarians were ahead of their time about, I guess, what we call justice issues. They were, like, way ahead of their time. Like Jeremy Bentham and John Stuart Mill,
Mm-hmm.
when they were talking about, this is like the middle of the 1700s, when they were talking about like women's rights, women's suffrage, when they're talking about slavery, when they're talking about prison reform, when they're talking about homosexuality, like, all of their attitudes were just, like, way ahead of their time. And then Sidgwick in the late 1800s, he was, like, even more ahead of his time, and he, like, founded the first women's college at Cambridge University, and it's just so progressive because they were, like, applying that utilitarian concept of, we should care about the well-being of all,
Mm-hmm.
and not discriminate in which well-being we care about. And
Yeah.
then you talk about, about deontology. The founder of deontology, Immanuel Kant.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe this is not entirely fair, but meanwhile, while the utilitarians were having all of these progressive opinions that we respect now, what
Yeah.
did Immanuel Kant think? Well, Immanuel Kant thought crazy shit.
Yeah. You're right.
He thought that if there was a murderer at your door asking whether the victim was hiding inside, you should not lie to him.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's what Kant thought. Kant also thought that masturbation was more immoral than suicide.
Yeah. Obviously, rights can be used in absurdity, just like
Okay, so
utilitarian line of reasoning as well. Yeah. It just. Yeah. My framework is coming from being consistent with, at least within the U.S. Rights. Human rights issues. So the right to life, the right to live free as long as you're not harming anybody else in the process. Yeah, basically that's where I'm coming from.
yeah, but so what I'm going to say is I don't disagree with talking about rights,
Yeah.
but I just think that what rights, like, the good idea of rights, what it really means is care about everybody's well-being.
Hmm.
And that's what I think is lacking in our society. Like, I would
Yeah, I
say,
agree.
if you're going to say a lot of people in our society, like powerful people or just all people, most people, they don't care about other people's rights enough. I would just, like, change the wording of that, and I would say we don't care about the suffering of people in the world enough.
Yes, people and animals. Yeah.
And animals, yeah, that's right, and animals. Um, all, yeah, all the sentient beings.
Hmm.
So you can use the rights language, but I think the rights language is ultimately going to come down to, Peter Singer, probably the world's most famous utilitarian alive today.
Hmm.
He wrote a book called The Expanding Circle that was like, a long time ago when we were in clans, we only cared about our family. And then we'd like settle down into like towns and we cared about our town. And then we built like nation states, we cared about our nation. And then people started beyond their nation. They like invented this concept of race and they cared about their race. And then we extended it to like all of humanity we should care about.
Yeah, to species.
And
Yeah.
then we're extending it to other species and to all sentient life, right?
Yeah.
And so I would say like most of the time when people talk about rights, it would be like it would be clearer if they just talked about caring about the experiences of others, like really caring. Like that's the kind of utilitarian consequentialist attitude, is like go to the place where people are living hard lives and look at them, get to know them, and then care about them.
Yeah.
And then base your life around the concept of veil of ignorance. Like, what if I was in their position?
Yeah. And use basic empathy
And
instincts. Yeah.
basic empathy, and not like limiting it to one group, but like thinking about,
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. Yeah.
people in the US, right? Even like relatively poor people, my family and I are not we're not very rich, okay?
Yeah.
um
Mine neither.
but we all, even those of us that are like in the lower half of Americans, we all spend way too much time thinking about how much richer the 1% are than us. We spend too much time thinking about that, and we spend too little time thinking about how much better our lives are than the billions of people in
Around
other
the
parts of
world.
the world.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's why Peter Singer, utilitarians, ethical consequentialists, I think, like, aside from the animals are like the number one point, I think, because of their numbers, the factory farm animals. But the second issue is not like these issues that people in America have. Like, our conflicts in America we're like so small, so tiny compared to the number of people dying of malaria
Hmm.
and dying of AIDS in Africa.
Hmm.
We're like fucking I grew up, okay, I'm 47 years old. I grew up in the like peak of the AIDS crisis
Hmm.
in high school and college. Okay. And I knew several people who died of AIDS. It's still going on. And then in America, like almost nobody even talks about it anymore. Like,
Hmm.
it's not even an issue anymore, right?
Yeah.
Oh, it's gone because it doesn't like apply to us anymore, really. Like,
Yeah.
even if you got infected, you could just like easily get the medication to be fine, right?
Yeah.
And we just act like it's just done,
Hmm.
and it's
It
like huge
basically became an
cause of
endemic.
suffering and death.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just not affecting us in our country, but in the world, it's still a huge epidemic.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
and that's the essential evil, I think, is like
Yeah, ignoring the world's issues. Yeah, I agree.
this is we got very far away from talking about bivalves, but
Yeah, I mean,
um
yeah, the mindset is what we're attacking, right? Yeah, I agree that um, basically everything is coming from a selfish point of view and not a compassionate point of view, right? So whatever
yeah.
benefits us as individuals, people prioritize over what benefits us as a group, right? And that's a
But
problem.
so one thing I would want to say about bivalves though then is that part of it is like making excuses for the things that you cause. So the people who ethically defend like eating like farmed bivalves, like oysters that are grown on a rope, is
Hmm.
they say like this causes less suffering than the fruits and vegetables and grains that vegans eat because they use like pesticides. They kill a bunch of rats and then animals get run over when they're harvesting.
That's
And
insane to me.
so when vegans say like well, the animals that are killed by like poisons in the plant farms don't matter, you know. Vegans that want to say that it's so like outrageous and bad that somebody would eat oysters, but then they just say, I don't care, it's not my fault. It's not my fault if like rats get poisoned to make my vegetables. That
Hmm.
sounds like bullshit to me. That sounds like um, you're just like running away from part of your responsibility.
Yeah, you're
You
right.
should just be honest about like, well, yeah, when we eat fruit, you know, those fruit farmers kill some animals.
Yeah,
That doesn't mean like we shouldn't eat fruit. It just means we should be fucking honest. And if some way comes along to do less of that harm, then we should do it.
yeah,
But that's
I
part of the
agree.
thing with bivalves though, is that like you I think you probably have a good neurological argument that maybe oysters have some kind of sentience, but uh, rats have a lot more sentience than oysters, and rats get poisoned to death in painful ways to grow our crops.
Hmm.
And so a lot of the some of the people who are making the pro oyster eating argument are saying that it causes less suffering to the animals than the plant-based foods.
Yeah, that's insane to me. I can explain why.
You mean you insane? You mean like it kind of blows your mind, like the truth of it, or you mean like
No,
you don't believe it's true?
yeah, that's not true. The ocean, well, first of all, we're land animals, right? Um, by what you're saying would be ignoring that. Okay, there could be a potential uh, more suffering that we're just ignoring because we're land animals, that the animals in the ocean could be experiencing and we just don't know about. That obviously
Mm-hmm.
that can be an issue, and that we are, not acknowledging to existing basically within the scenario. But the farming in the ocean, the bivalves, um, bivalves are not, they don't commit, well, from my perspective, rights violations to animals. They literally just feed off of detritus from animals. So they just literally feed
Yeah,
off
yeah.
of feces and stuff. Rats, on the other hand, they are omnivorous, I think, right? Rats.
I'm sorry. What is omnivorous?
Aren't rats omnivorous? Like, they eat both animals and plants. Rats
I'm not hearing
omnivorous.
right. I'm not hearing the word that you're saying. Or
Oh,
what? Oh, rats.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
rat. Oh, sorry. Yeah. Yeah,
So
as far as I know, yeah, they just like eat anything that's edible around, and they just like reproduce like crazy.
okay, so I'm just
Um,
double checking so I can make a
so
concise.
that yeah. The other thing, yeah. So I see what you're saying. Rats are partly predators. So if you kill
Yeah,
them, then you're preventing other deaths of things that they would kill. But
yeah.
yeah. The other
Um,
thing about rats, the other thing about pest species like rats or mosquitoes is that if you kill them now, like you keep their population numbers low. But if you don't kill them now, then they're just going to reproduce like crazy, and then like until all the food is gone, and then they're going to starve to death. So
right.
it might
Um,
actually it might actually cause less suffering if you kill the pest species, kill some of them early to keep their population low,
yeah,
than if you just let them breed. Then the number of them that are going to end up starving to death or like eating each other or whatever might be like a much higher number.
yeah, and also, um, from what our current system or our population requires these factory farms of the plants to exist so we can get optimal nutritionally adequate resources from. If we were to only
Mm.
allow local something like that, we probably would not be able to nearly be able to have adequate diets for everybody to live healthy and long lives. That's
Yeah, that
also a
sounds
factor.
right. Like,
Yeah,
yeah, definitely. Yeah, growing crops where they can be best grown in the most efficient way, and then having like a advanced international economy,
hmm,
international trade to get this wide diversity of plants into every country, so
yeah,
people can have their diverse nutrition.
yeah,
Yeah, that's not something that I would want to do away with and only eat the local food. Yeah,
yeah.
for sure.
And with the farming of the plants, we are not creating more potential rights violations through zoonotic diseases. So like we're not,
Oh yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, we're not
I don't know if I would
causing,
talk about them being rights violations, but definitely
yeah,
huge
yeah, we're not
suffering.
covering more suffering or more death. We're not causing people who otherwise would not get sick and die slowly or die fast from a virus, etc. We're not, yeah, we're not causing that to continue. We're not increasing that risk through farming the plants, but we would be doing that conceivably if we continue to farm bivalves, because bivalves are literally a source of all those
Hmm.
viruses and bacteria, etc. Um, that's also a factor
Okay,
too.
I
Yeah,
agree with that. Yeah, I mean, I for like health and like safety and
yeah,
whatever digestion reasons,
and even for,
I
yeah,
I don't see any reason at all why I would want to eat bivalves. You know,
right, and even
the
for,
only supplements we need on a plant based diet, the only real one we need is B12, and then
yeah,
maybe in the winter, depending on where you are,
some, yeah,
you need like
D3,
some
yeah,
vitamin D. Yeah,
yeah.
but
Just to
and
be
there's
clear,
all the foods that we eat are fortified, so
yeah,
there's no I don't I my position is there's no reason to eat bivalves other
exactly,
than
yeah.
that. I think other than like the ethical argument that I think we are responsible for crop deaths.
Yeah, yeah, obviously, yeah,
Um,
I can acknowledge that. Yeah, obviously, our current system is not perfect, and we should improve it to not cause these, these unnecessary deaths, especially on the herbivorous animals because they matter the most.
hey man, by the way, did you I don't know how soon Carson's going to come back, but do you know Humane Hancock?
I heard of him. I have not looked into his channel. I've just been doing my own thing. I've not been looking much on the other vegan channels. So
Oh, that's all right. But I mean, he's a utilitarian, and one of the things that he talks about a lot more than other like YouTube vegans is wild animal suffering. And you seem like you're really aware of that. You're
Hmm.
thinking about that a lot, predation and stuff. So
Yeah.
I thought you might like his channel. But just a couple of weeks ago, there was the vegan camp out in the UK.
Hmm.
That big event they always have at the end of July, and Humane Hancock gave a speech there. I was like, awesome. It was just fucking amazing. Because usually at camp out, there's all these vegans in the audience of a speech, and most of the speeches are just like preaching to the choir, you know.
Yeah.
Just like everybody's just like cheering, like everybody's like in the zone, right? But
Yeah.
Humane Hancock give a speech about wild animal suffering that
Yeah.
most like vegans don't care about, and he like showed the videos and pictures of how horrible nature is,
Yeah.
and then he talked about how big the numbers are, and he was just like, you know,
Yeah.
his speech title was like the vegan blind spot, and so
Hmm.
he's saying like this is your blind spot, like you think like only like stopping human factory farms solves the problem. Like it doesn't, because there's still nature out there, and nature involves all this horrible suffering,
Yeah.
and like we have a responsibility like going into the future to
Exactly. Yes.
um
I agree.
care about everybody, not only like say like we don't have chickens and pigs and cows in our farms anymore, so it's not our fault anymore, but
Yeah.
but like you're talking about like the effects of predation and starvation in nature, and like the effect of disease in nature is like so huge,
Yes.
but it's also something that humans have to start to care about, and
Because it affects
in
us
the
too.
future we have to like, it affects us too. We're all we're all in this together, not only humans and the animals that we, not you and me, but
Yeah.
humans
Yeah.
raise, but also all of the earthlings that can think and feel, right?
Exactly.
they have
Yes.
they have importance. And like the nature videos that show like a zebra getting ripped to death by lions, that's not beautiful.
Of course not. No.
that sh- that shouldn't be beautiful, and somebody who looks at that and says that it's beautiful, like their mind is just fucked up.
Yeah. I
Just like,
think. Yeah. I think people. I think the only people who would honestly say that are literal psychopaths. Like they just can't empathize.
mhm.
Like anything that like they basically just make a might makes right argument. Like it just happens. So it's nothing you can do about it. Like it is what it is. It's nothing to be have a problem with it. It just it just exists. You know, it's crazy, but yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it's okay to say, there's this horrible thing going on and I don't know what to do about it.
yeah.
Like that's okay.
Mhm.
Like most of the world is like that, right?
Yeah, yeah,
Like just there's just no end to the things that you and me could sit here and think about in the world and say we don't know what to do about it.
yeah,
But we're not going to say that it's not a problem.
yeah,
We're not gonna like lie to each other and say like just because we don't know how to solve this problem that it must be okay.
yeah,
Like what kind of person? A lot of people seem to think like that, but what kind of person thinks like that?
yeah. Somebody who's just not
You
able to empathize. Yeah,
Yeah, and the goal of a good person is not to say like all this stuff is not my fault. Say like I'm doing all the things that I need to do, and then all the other shit is not my fault.
Yeah.
That's not like I finished my responsibility, so I'm clean. You got nothing on me. I'm clean. All the other shit in the world is not my fault. So
Yeah, that's dishonest. Like
I
you contributing into the society. Yeah, it's part of your fault. Like you have to pay taxes and stuff like that. Yeah. So we all have a
we're all in it.
we
Yeah,
all have
we're
an
all in it together, right?
individual.
We're all in
Yeah,
it together.
exactly. Yeah, and we just gotta work together to fix these problems. Yeah.
Yeah, everything is your fault.
Yeah.
Yeah, everything.
Even if it's not directly your fault, it's a community's responsibility.
Yeah, there's this old sermon by John Donne. It's the "For Whom the Bell Tolls" sermon that the novel's title got based upon. He says like, "No man is an island. No man is an island entire of itself. Every man is a piece of the continent." Right?
Yeah.
And then he says, yeah, if a clod is washed away from the shore, then Europe is less. Yeah. And then the most famous line is, "So never ask for whom the bell tolls, it tolls for thee."
Huh.
Meaning like
Yeah.
all the suffering that's happening, anytime anything bad is happening, you're a part of it.
Yeah.
And and so vegans should not be like building up this illusion that we're pure,
I agree.
and that like making excuses for why the rats that are poisoned by the farmers who grow our vegetables don't count.
Yeah.
Right? We shouldn't be like making these like nice little tight rules to say like, I did this and this and this and this, I'm a perfect vegan now, and all the other stuff doesn't, it's just outside, it doesn't count, it's not my fault anymore.
Yeah. That's
Right?
that's dishonest. Yeah.
Yeah. So we do live, we do choose to live, and we do things all the time that are causing suffering to others, and also we like, most of us like, we have hobbies, right? We go spend our money on like our pleasure, and we don't donate everything that we could to charities to help the animals and to help like the most like poor, suffering and dying humans on Earth, right?
Yeah.
So we don't do everything that we can, and that doesn't mean we should just like hate ourselves.
Yeah.
But it doesn't mean like we should like we shouldn't lie to ourselves, right?
Yeah.
We shouldn't lie to ourselves and say like, oh, we're not donating, our governments aren't donating to save the people in the world dying of malaria. That's not our fault. What does that have to do with us, right? We didn't give them malaria. Like who cares? We shouldn't lie to ourselves, right? It's still the fact that I'm fucking buying alcohol and like going out to see a movie and shit, when that money could have gone to charity,
well-being of others. Yeah.
We just got to start by not lying to ourselves about the effect that we have, and then that leads us to, we're not going to do everything that we possibly could, but we could at least do more, right? We could do more than other people.
Always improve.
And we could inspire other people to do more. we're never gonna get over our selfishness.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, and that's part of the reason why. I mean, I think from every animal's perspective, that is the case, and it just happens that we humans are, most responsible for all these, problems in the world, as they persist, that we know we can stop, Um, it's just that me personally, I've developed a pessimistic point of view to say that humans are just. It would probably be best if humans were extinct, but I'm not going to advocate for that.
That's the
Obviously,
tricky thing, right?
yeah,
About the future, about futurism, future
yeah,
society is like humans right now are causing this like huge suffering for no reason
yeah,
in factory farms, but also nature is terrible.
absolutely, yeah, yeah,
And if there's any hope for, if there's any hope for all of life to go beyond the suffering of natural selection
yeah,
and like all the suffering in nature to stop, then the only way it's going to happen is for humans to do it.
yeah, yeah,
It's
yeah,
like for humans to figure out the right ethics and then the right technology
yeah,
to allow like creatures to continue to exist without torturing each other.
yeah. You're right. You're right. Because
So
we're the only ones capable of that potential outcome. Yeah,
yeah, it's all about like how much trust do you have, how much like of a gamble are you gonna put in the potential of humans to fix those things, get the ethics right,
and then
and
act
then make that.
accordingly. Yeah,
Yeah, because if all humans went extinct right now and then the rest of nature was still there, then
yeah. We still, yeah. The
there
problem
would
of
still be
everything else,
huge,
yeah,
horrible suffering.
still
Yeah.
exists. Yeah,
The suffering would still exist, and then you'd have to wait until some other species evolved enough like level of intelligence and
yeah,
technology to fix things. But
yeah,
right now the ball's in our hands, right? Right
yeah.
now, like um, we're either gonna do it or not, and
It's very unfortunate. This process is very slow, and that's what I hate. Yeah,
yeah, you and I are gonna be dead, right?
yeah,
We're definitely gonna be dead before like some amazing improvement takes place.
yeah.
Uh,
But it's our job to speak up and to advocate for these changes until that happens, right?
yeah, we have to kind of like put our minds into the future, pretend like we're living in the future or something like that, right?
Yeah,
And the thing that helps us is thinking about the moral crusaders of the past, right?
yeah,
Just think about just think about like Frederick Douglass being transported to today.
yeah. I agree.
he like he'd say there's still some problems, but he'd say like first like his mind would be blown for
Yeah.
like a month. His mind would be blown, and then he could say like then he would start to say like okay, there's still some problems you guys need to work out, but like
Oh yeah.
mostly
You'd be like,
mostly for like a solid month he'd be saying holy shit.
mm-hmm.
I could never dream it would be so good, right?
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's better than the past, right? Yeah,
Yeah, so we just better hope that Steven Pinker is right, and there's this process that MLK too, right? He said the moral arc of history bends toward justice,
mm-hmm.
something like that. These people who believe that there is just like this natural course of progress.
Yeah,
It feels as a vegan, it feels really really disappointing. There's like a temptation to be pessimistic all the time,
yeah,
right?
exactly. That's exactly how I came. Yeah,
But um,
but being pessimistic doesn't justify, not speaking up we gotta continue to speak up and to make the world a better place.
Keep just telling the truth,
Yeah.
And I'm 47 years old. I went vegan when I was about 40 and 40 or 41. And so I don't know. I don't know if you're a lot younger than I am, but
Yeah, I'm 26.
okay, a bit younger. But like the thing that helped me change, because I knew the arguments before that,
Mm-hmm.
long before I changed. I knew what the vegan arguments were, and if somebody was talking to me, I would have said oh, I understand where you guys are coming from, but I'm just not ready to do it or some shit like that.
Yeah.
And what happened with me is it's like a realization that I was halfway to my death,
Yeah.
like like realizing just how short life is, and
Yeah.
you never know what day is going to be your last day, that kind of thing. And it just just realizing the shit that doesn't matter and the shit that matters, right?
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah.
It's such a huge cliche, but I'm just realizing it doesn't matter uh, how rich I am when I die or whatever,
Yeah.
or how many hot chicks I bang,
Yeah.
like, it's, what
That's
matters is
all. Yeah. That's all true. Yeah.
I make peace with what's right.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's what mattered, and so that's what somehow it's like a miracle. I started making changes to prioritize the things that were really important,
Yeah.
and realize that it's not about me, because I'm MLK again. He's referenced Moses, right?
Yeah.
Seeing the promised land and knowing that he's not going to get there, but he's still leading the people towards it, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we're not we know we're not going to get there, but we're still keeping our focus on the on the goal, the distant future goal, and just moving in that direction every day until we die, knowing that even on the day we die, we're not going to be there yet.
Yeah. Yes. It's
Yeah,
it's very depressing to think about that.
yeah, but it's depressing if you think about it in a certain way, but it's relaxing if you think about it in another way. It's
Yeah.
um, you know, because it's not like a fight anymore. It's not like a fight within yourself anymore. It's like a journey. It's just like a walk.
Mm-hmm.
So everything that you say, way you influence people, the way you inspire people with your actions, is just like a steady walk in a certain direction.
Yeah.
And you know what direction you're going in. You're going to continue going in that direction, and you're going to continue trying to bring people along with you going in that direction.
Yeah.
And then it becomes less depressing that that you won't personally reach the destination.
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe that's advice from an old man, but
No, it's
this
good,
has
man. It's
most
good.
of what we yeah
Yeah, I appreciate you.
saying.
I appreciate that. Yeah.
I appreciate you too. We haven't talked about bivalves a lot, but because I just wanted to bring it to like like vegans shouldn't be fighting for like who has more purity than who. Yeah, right?
Yeah, I agree. Technically, that's virtue signaling. Yeah,
Yeah,
we always need to
right.
improve. We're not at a perfect, you know, place in life, in our society, or in our world. Basically, it's we have a long way to go, and we're only starting to get to that, perfect place by acknowledging that we're not in a perfect
Yeah.
place, right?
Hey,
Hey,
Carson.
hey. It
Hey,
sounds
man.
from that few seconds that was a good wrapping up point.
It is. I gotta say. I gotta say when you listen to this later, it's all my fault. But
Awesome.
there was not much talk about bivalves. I
Oh,
led Demon Wolf like way off on tangents, far away
yeah.
from
No, I'm looking
ethics of
forward to checking it out and
eating
commenting on it.
bivalves. But
Yeah.
yeah, he's a good guy.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's good to get more talks going with as many people as possible. So I'm glad you guys got to talk.
Um, yeah.
Okay.
Nice meeting you. I've seen you in chat before. But nice talking with you for the first time.
What's your name? What's your
I'm
channel's name,
Jeremy.
man? Okay,
Oh my!
Jeremy.
Oh, I don't have a channel. No,
You
I'm
don't have
just
a
on.
channel? Okay. It's nice to meet you too, Jeremy.
I'm on this channel. I'm on Reasonable Vegan channel quite a bit, and then also I've been on Jerome Eubanks channel a few times.
Okay.
I might have my own channel at some point.
Yeah. I should
Do you
just
have your
change it.
channel?
I should just
Do
change
you
it
have a
to.
channel? Sorry,
Oh, hey, Demon Wolf. Yeah, that
Demon
is his
Wolf.
channel.
You have a channel? You have your
Yeah.
own videos? Oh,
Yeah.
cool. I'll go check it out.
I mean, I don't post very often, but yeah, when I have time, I do attempt to do reactions or whatever. I'm now starting to get into consistent editing before I upload videos, so excuse me for those raw, videos to start.
Oh, that's all right. I might if I start one soon, it'll be just the same, like really rough.
Yeah. I should change my name to Reasonable Vegans with an S at the end, and then just have it be a collective of me, you, Lewis, all the guys that don't have channels that like to talk. So,
Well, and then Henry, what's her face?
I
but
appreciate that. I mean, that'd be cool.
yeah, especially since I have my other channel anyways. Maybe I will do that. But yeah, I better hop off here and get this closed. It's a little over 100 degrees in Oregon right now. How's California?
We are in the mountains surrounded by tall trees. So
Oh,
I
okay.
think that if we went down the hill to the place to the foothills, I think it would probably be 10 degrees hotter. But
Gotcha.
we're about to go out and watch the meteor shower pretty soon. We have
Oh, awesome.
low light pollution here. We watched it last night, and it's going to be going again tonight. So
That's awesome. But yeah, I better get this laptop shut down before the heat kills it. But yeah, you guys have a good night, and I'll talk to you guys soon.
good night, guys.
All right,
Thanks for
take
having
care.
me.
Yep, for sure. Take care.
Thanks.